The ongoing investigation of the terror at Columbine High. A handwritten diary proves the assault had been planned for a year.
It's a timeline that comes all the way down to the date of the actual attack. If there was a third or fourth or a fifth person involved, we're going to find him.
As Littleton buries another victim, America looks for answers. What drives a teen to violence? What can parents and other adults do to prevent it?
Metal detectors may be good, maybe not good. You need mental detectors in a way.
The new emphasis on learning to listen. NATO's air campaign against Yugoslavia, transforming the alliance's birthday celebration into a summit on war with a commitment to keep on bombing.
In order for this strategy to succeed, we need two things. One, vigorous execution, and two, patience.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams. Substituting tonight is Glenn Cannon.
Good evening, everyone. It's been a long, painful, and emotional week in Littleton, Colorado. More is known tonight about the tragedy. There is new information about the planning of the attack at Columbine High School and about the source of the guns the killers used. But with new information comes still more questions about the attack which left 15 dead and 23 wounded on Tuesday. NBC's Jim Avila is in Littleton with late and exclusive information. Good evening, Jim.
Good evening, Len. NBC News has learned that federal agents from the ATF have now traced the purchase of 2 of the 4 guns used in the Columbine High School shooting to a female friend of suspect Dylan Klebold. He was 17 and was not old enough to buy the weapons when they were purchased. Law enforcement sources working inside the shuttered high school at the crime scene tell NBC News the 2 weapons, a sophisticated rapid-fire handgun and a carbine rifle, were purchased 18 months ago at a gun show in the Denver area. Sheriff's detectives now want to question the teenaged woman to determine if she knew how the guns were to be used. Investigators are also questioning at least 2 others law enforcement sources call suspects. Both associates of the 2 dead gunmen and members of the so-called trenchcoat mafia. Both boys have hired attorneys, and one agreed to take a lie detector test, which sources say he failed. A spokesman for the sheriff's office tells reporters physical evidence and interviews lead police to believe there will be some arrests.
We feel like the chances are even increasing that will show us that there is further involvement.
And also today, sheriff's investigators publicly revealed the existence of a diary kept by suspect Eric Harris. It was found in a search of his house after the shootings and contained detailed plans for the massacre, some of them written a year in advance, and the last entry the day before the attack.
They had the school mapped out. They've had this map for quite a period of time and had made notations on the map like these lights are bad over here, good place to hide here, you know, numbers of students in cafeteria, it seems 11 o'clock, the highest amount. They were going for a big kill.
Also found at the Harris house the night of the shooting, evidence of bomb making and sawing off shotguns inside the boys' room.
You know, pipe bomb making material, you know, things like that. I think I'd get a little clear view. Clear view.
Also tonight, word that a suicide letter posted on the internet calling itself the official Harris Manifesto is likely a hoax. Police say it was posted on the internet after the shootings.
These emails were received, all of them were received after the death of both suspects.
And finally tonight, NBC News has learned that during the shooting, one of the suspects, Eric Harris, shed his trench coat. It was found in the center of the library, away from his body. He was wearing a white T-shirt when he shot himself, and his partner, Dylan Klebold, was wearing all black, the trench coat, pants, and a black shirt, which had the word wrath written across his chest. Len?
NBC's Jim Avila in Littleton, thank you. Another victim of Tuesday's assault was buried today, a 17-year-old woman who had big dreams. Here's NBC's George Lewis.
Somebody's sister, somebody's friend.
Remembering Rachel, her friends gathered around her coffin this afternoon and signed their names before she was laid to rest.
Questions come in true.
Rachel Scott was an aspiring actress who referred to herself jokingly as the People's Princess. A bright girl of 17, she hoped to graduate from high school early.
I hereby present unto you your graduation certificate to heaven.
Lori Johnson is a youth pastor in Rachel's church.
She was an amazing girl.
And as one of her favorite tunes, the theme from Titanic, played in the background, her prom date, Nick Baumgarten, spoke of Rachel.
She wanted to make everybody happy.
One of the pastors issued a challenge to students.
Pick up the torch that Rachel carried. Pick it up and hold it high. And stop being a victim. Be proactive. Speak to the culture you live in. Declare a cultural revolution of compassion and mercy and love, and forsake violence. You have the power.
This afternoon at Clement Park near the high school, a place where the community has come to mourn, one of the wounded students, Mackay Hall, showed up accompanied by his father. Shot in the leg 9 times, the young man was just released from the hospital yesterday. Classmates call him a hero. He grabbed one of the bombs at the school and threw it out of the way. He had a few brief words before he left.
I want to thank everyone for coming out. That memorial is awesome.
Over the next few days, they will continue to bury the victims of the rampage at Columbine High School, as the community still struggles with the questions. Why this? Why here? And when will it stop? George Lewis, NBC News, Littleton, Colorado.
And as Littleton heals, this story out of a small town in Texas, where police say a similar school tragedy was barely averted. Tonight, 4 14-year-olds are in custody, accused of planning an assault on their schoolmates in junior high school. Again, it raises the haunting question, how to stop the violence in America's schools. Here's NBC's Rahema Ellis.
The alleged target, this junior high school in Wimberley, Texas. The suspects, 4 students, supposedly had been planning an attack since January. In the wake of the Colorado incident, someone turned them in.
Key is that we be diligent and vigilant for people who feel like they need to act out their aggressions by violence.
The tragedy in Littleton has put the entire nation on alert, and again has parents wondering, how did America come to this, and what can be done to prevent another school shooting? It's clearly high on the president's agenda. He spoke about it in his radio address today. And visiting a Virginia high school this week, Mr. Clinton listened to students who want more parental and adult supervision and say violence on television and in the movies is too much.
The value of a human life has gone down, and that's why I can see where the kids would think maybe they wouldn't understand the impact of what they really did.
The president urged parents and teachers to listen and pay more attention to kids.
There has to be a hotline. There has to be some sort of early warning system. There has to be a climate in which children feel, young people feel that they can ring the alarm bell when they see something like this.
In Littleton, authorities say the killers were part of a group whose members consider themselves to be outcast and nursed the same dark interest. One family psychologist says parents have to work harder to recognize the clues that teenagers are moving in a troubled direction.
The warning signs are anger, underachievement, not doing your work, being withdrawn into your room, the playing of violent games.
Are we a country addicted to violence? Who or what is to blame?
In New York City, students in this high school spend 40 minutes at the beginning of every day talking about what matters most to them. It's part of the school program here at the Urban Peace Academy. Early intervention, conflict resolution, and emotional development are included in every phase of the curriculum in the small school of 340 students.
What we believe in is creating small schools where people develop relationships with each other, personal relationships that we know our students know us.
If you mad about something, you're going to talk to one of the teachers because they teach you like a brother and sister, or rather than a mother and father.
Peter Nelson is the director of a national program that helps train teachers to head off violent conflicts.
Metal detectors may be good, maybe not good. You need mental detectors in a way. You need a place which suggests that the ideas and the feelings and the fears of some young people will come out there.
Violence isn't inevitable. It is something that can be prevented. It often involves behavior that is learned and picked up from all sorts of sources. But that means it can be unlearned.
Experts say there is no single answer to preventing violence, that it takes a total effort from parents, schools, and kids themselves to keep kids safe. Rahima Ellis, NBC News, New York.
The tragedy in Littleton is a key topic tomorrow on NBC's Meet the Press. Attorney General Janet Reno, Tipper Gore, and former Education Secretary William Bennett will be among Tim Russert's guests. When NBC Nightly News continues in a moment, the NATO summit in Washington, solid support for putting more pressure on Yugoslavia. And later, in focus, boosting the body's immune system to battle HIV.
So it's true, isn't it? You guys really are moving?
Yeah.
Well, that's just great.
Listen, they have to sell the house first.
So?
Well, selling a house takes time. We'll at least have the whole summer together.
You think? Goodbye. I'll miss you.
Nobody knows homes better than Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate.
You're the perfect pair. Smile. Laugh. Eat. Get together for delicious lobster and shrimp. Side by side for a short time. And priced at just $12.99. The perfect combination for a pair like you. Escape to Red Lobster.
Does your older dog seem confused? Doesn't recognize you? Or turns away when you pet him? It could be due to a medical condition called cognitive dysfunction. So if your older dog loses interest in your family and no longer acts like he used to, we're home. Ask your veterinarian if Anapril can help. Side effects may include vomiting, diarrhea, or behavior changes. Consult your veterinarian before using with other medications or tick collars.
Raisin Bran, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, what's going on? That Raisin Bran has less than half your folic acid for the day. Even less of your zinc.
That's a weenie breakfast, Frank.
There's almost no vitamin E at all. Looks like you need Total Raisin Bran. Just one bowl gives you 100% of 10 important vitamins and minerals you need for the day. No other Raisin Bran comes close.
Attaboy, Frank!
And there's room for my spoon.
Total Raisin Bran, Total Cornflakes. What are you getting for breakfast?
Natural, real. I want to look the way I feel. I'm a Grecian man.
Grecian fine.
Want it quick, hassle-free. A look that really looks like me. Grecian man.
Grecian fine.
A Grecian man, no time for gray. A new generation, a whole new day.
Grecian fine.
It's now been a month since the start of airstrikes in and around Kosovo, with NATO claiming mounting success, but with no sign the Serbs are about to crack. So NATO is thinking of expanding its mission. NBC's Joe Johns is at the Pentagon tonight. Joe?
Lynn, the U.S. and NATO are now grappling with a plan to impose an oil embargo in hopes of choking off the lifeblood of the Serb military. As the bombing campaign began its second month today, NATO widened its sights from the air to the sea, focusing on a plan still in the formative stages to board ships in the Adriatic, check for oil shipments, and, if necessary, turn the ships around. The idea, to prevent fuel from reaching port in Montenegro and from there being transported across land to Serb forces in Kosovo. NATO said airstrikes have already reduced supplies of oil to the Yugoslav military machine dramatically, but needs new measures to keep supplies from being replenished.
It makes less sense for NATO pilots to risk their lives every evening over Yugoslavia, attempting to deplete the existing oil reserves if oil can enter freely by the back door.
Another looming military initiative, the long-awaited Apache helicopters, whose mission will be to attack tanks and Serb ground troops in Kosovo. The Pentagon announced it is sending 2,000 more troops and additional equipment to support the helicopters deployed in Albania. But the helicopters have not been ordered into combat yet, and some are cautioning not to expect miracles when they finally do go into action.
Everybody's looking for a silver bullet here, and they are not. They will make a significant contribution over a period of time. but I am trying my very best to reduce the expectations.
But for now, NATO officials are focusing on the plan to search ships, a proposal first worked on last fall. It would present both political and legal questions which would have to be answered before any plan could take effect. Len?
Joe Johns at the Pentagon, thank you. Those questions you talk about are being thrashed out behind closed doors at the NATO summit. NBC's David Bloom joins us from the White House. Good evening, David.
Good evening, Len. President Clinton has so far failed to convince some of America's allies, notably France, that a naval blockade of Yugoslavia is both legal and wise. And tonight, frustrated American officials say that unless NATO agrees to intercept those oil tankers on the high seas, the only alternative would be to bomb the Yugoslav port city of Bar, where those tankers offload. This afternoon, a defensive President Clinton insisted that despite NATO's inability to stop the ethnic cleansing in Kosovo, America is not drifting toward a wider war in the Balkans.
Well, we're not drifting, we are moving forward with a strategy that I believe strongly will succeed.
But a key element to that strategy, the oil embargo, may be unworkable. The embargo only applies to NATO member countries. And today, Russia said it will continue to ship oil to Yugoslavia. So would NATO intercept Russian oil tankers? Today, French President Jacques Chirac sounded apprehensive.
But let's assume that the ship does not allow itself to be shot, so you have to board it forcibly and conduct a forced search. Now, that's an act of war.
In Belgrade today, thousands of angry Serbs marched to the state-run television network, which NATO temporarily bombed off the air 2 nights ago. But President Clinton defended the attack, saying Yugoslav President Slobodan Milosevic, who was back on Serb TV today, uses the station to, quote, spew hatred and spread disinformation. In fact, as NATO's 19 leaders continue their 50th anniversary summit in Washington this weekend, U.S. officials say the best result so far has been a tacit agreement to give NATO's military commander, General Wesley Clark, a freer hand in selecting targets without political interference. Senior U.S. officials say that broader range of targets, such as the TV station and electric power grids, are meant to increase the discomfort and undermine the resolve of the Serb people. But after a month of bombing, neither Milosevic nor his countrymen show any signs of bowing to the U.S. and the NATO demands. And so tonight, President Clinton is urging patience and determination, saying that in his mind, the NATO bombing has not been going on for a particularly long time. Len?
NBC's David Bloom at the White House, thank you. To London now, where for the second Saturday in a row, an explosion has ripped through a residential neighborhood. This time, an apparent car bomb went off in the center of one of London's biggest Bangladeshi communities, injuring 7 people. Several buildings were also damaged. Last week, a nail bomb planted at a market in a black neighborhood injured 39 people. When NBC Nightly News continues, research on a new strategy in the war on AIDS.
When dentures dream, they see the perfect denture cleanser. One with the stain-fighting power of Efferdent and the freshening power of Listerine. Well, little friend, dream no more. It's really here. It's called Efferdent Plus, and it's the only denture cleanser that could make your dream come true. Efferdent Clean and Listerine Fresh. That's Efferdent Plus.
Papa John's is only 14 years old.
But we've already been ranked higher in customer satisfaction than our 3 largest competitors.
3 years in a row.
Help us celebrate our big win.
Our success
and our anniversary.
Get 2 large pizzas with 2 toppings for just $12. 2 large, 2 toppings, just $12.
Taste our pride.
Better ingredients, better pizza, Papa John's.
And our most important ingredient, better people.
You got that right.
Imagine a world without moisture. For millions of people with dry, scratchy eyes, this is how their world feels. Now there's new Visine Tears for dry eyes, with a unique tears formula not found in other leading brands. Visine Tears soothes dry, scratchy eyes and makes them feel moist and comfortable in seconds. And it's safe to use as often as you need. Discover a world of comfort with new Visine Tears. It gets the dry out.
You didn't save me any?
It wasn't enough.
Quaker Toasted Oatmeal Squares. You haven't wanted a cereal this badly since you were a kid.
You still there, Hank? Yeah, kid. They sprayed us good, huh? Yeah, good. Well, I never thought we'd get sprayed in the garden. But we'll be okay, huh? I mean, we've been sprayed before, huh, Hank?
Sure, kid.
But I gotta tell you, my roots hurt real bad. Hank, whoever did this is gonna pay. Hank, they're gonna pay big. Hank?
Roundup kills weeds where others can't. Roundup, no root, no weed, no problem.
In focus this evening, some promising signs that doctors someday will be able to totally defeat the virus which causes AIDS. NBC's Dr. Ian Smith reports on the latest research.
John Surofsky has placed himself at the front lines of medical research. Infected with HIV 2 years ago, he periodically stops his medications.
I have a lot of trust, I guess, in my doctors, and I guess maybe in some way courage can also be considered a man who really has nothing left to lose.
Surofsky's doctors believe that because he started medications immediately after being infected, his body may have retained enough immune function to contain the virus. He could resemble a group of patients called long-term non-progressors who have HIV but don't develop AIDS.
There are people now who have been infected for 20 years who have never been treated with drugs and yet have never suffered any adverse consequences from their infection.
And this is why doctors are now turning their attention to the immune system. Drugs have certainly been effective at prolonging the lives of HIV patients, but researchers believe they're not enough. Battling the virus successfully might require a combination of approaches, including adjustments in the body's natural defenses.
What we're learning now is that the body does have at least partial and hopefully complete, but it is more likely partial, capability of reconstituting or regenerating the destroyed components of the immune system.
The immune system's killer T cells are responsible for killing HIV and other foreign particles in the body. This attack is coordinated by the helper T cells, but in HIV infections, these helper T cells are taken over by the virus, which ultimately overwhelms the immune system. To stimulate the immune system, researchers at the National Institutes of Health are giving patients interleukin-2, a naturally occurring protein.
Any lymph node problems?
Not that I know.
For the past 18 months, John Abbott has been taking this along with his regular medications, hoping to increase the number of helper T cells.
My T cell count was about 200 when I started interleukin-2, and it's broken 1,000 since I've been on interleukin-2.
For years, scientists have known that drugs are able to reduce the amount of virus in the blood to levels that are undetectable. Early results from the NIH study suggest interleukin-2 flushes the virus from its hiding places so drugs can kill it.
We looked at the cells in the blood, and on 2 of the 3 patients, we did a lymph node biopsy, and we still couldn't find virus. Now, to us, that tells us that something is going on.
In Seattle, researchers are using killer T cells to attack the virus in hiding. Dr. Philip Greenberg's team has isolated these cells, which target HIV-infected cells. They are cloned in the laboratory, then given back to the patient.
They actually traffic through the body, and they find where the infected cells are and where the virus is replicating and copying itself in infected cells, and kill those cells.
But the killer T cells don't survive long enough to destroy all the HIV. So the next step will be to manipulate the cell's genes to make them live longer and multiply more efficiently.
So now what we're saying is, can we leapfrog evolution and engineer a better immune system so that we can actually deal with these things now rather than wait for it to evolve over the next million years?
Tinkering with the body's natural immune system in the hope that someday a deadly disease will become nothing more than a chronic infection. Dr. Ian Smith, NBC News.
A warning this weekend for owners of personal computers. A virus called Chernobyl with the power to do irreparable damage to computers is set to strike on Monday. It can be neutralized by most antivirus software. You can find more information about all of this on our website, msnbc.com. When NBC Nightly News continues in a moment, Littleton, Colorado. coming to terms with what was once considered unimaginable.
Lively conversation every morning. Wrestling Sunday afternoons. Flower arranging weekends. Bike riding whenever. Boost daily with essential vitamins and minerals. Boost is just one of those special things you do to take care of yourself. In bars and drinks. Boost, a nutritional part of this complete life.
What? You got more than me.
Honey Nut Quaker Toasted Oatmeal. You haven't wanted a cereal this badly since you were a kid.
Buying a car will never be the same, because now you can check out any car you want and see how it stacks up to the competition whenever it's convenient for you. With our new website, even when the showroom is closed, we're still open. Introducing GMBuyPower.com.
1 Minute Maalox or Mylanta Supreme? Before you choose, you should know that Maalox Maximum Strength neutralizes over twice as much acid. When you get heartburn, make it 1 Minute Maalox. The #1 choice of hospitals.
If you can do this, you can make wood beautiful with Minwax. And if you can do this, you can give wood lasting protection. Turning a house into a beautiful home is as easy as turning to Minwax.
I never met a dog I didn't like, which is a good thing, considering some of the occupational hazards my friends put me through. This is mine. This is Herman. Ooh, what do we have here? A tick. That's why I choose Frontline for these guys. Frontline's the best, because it's the only one that protects them from fleas and disease-causing ticks, too. Sorry I kept you waiting, no matter who your best friend happens to be.
For fleas and ticks, veterinarians choose the front line of protection.
Okay, one more time.
Sunday on Today, the school shooting tragedy in Colorado. As the people of Littleton try to cope, they'll be heading to their churches for help. We'll be there too, Sunday on Today.
Finally this evening, the words of a minister from Littleton, Colorado, who has a special perspective. His name is Pastor Don Markshausen. Among those in his congregation, the family of murder suspect Dylan Klebold. He has been asked to conduct Dylan Klebold's funeral services. This morning, the minister told how he plans to comfort Klebold's parents.
I know you loved your son, and I know you did not mean for this to happen or knew that it was going to happen. And I know your pain is deep. And I want you to know that you are not alone. And that even some of the parents of the victims are praying for you, and in their pain, kind of understand some of your loss as well. The total experience of the hurt hasn't really been felt or evaluated. People are just really starting to grieve, even though there's been lots of tears. The grieving process is now going to start with all the funerals, and that will really begin the work.
Voices from Littleton, Colorado. That's NBC Nightly News for this Saturday. Thanks for watching. I'm Lynn Cannon. Have a good night.
NBC News, America's news leader.
Sunday, the trouble with America's children. Janet Reno, Tipper Gore, Bill Bennett, Pat Buchanan, and Senator Lieberman speak out. Also, Prime Minister Tony Blair on Kosovo on Beat the Press.
Dateline Sunday. The investigation in Littleton continues as grief-stricken families lay their loved ones to rest. Plus, it's a step-by-step recipe. Ingredients available at a local store. The final product, a bomb. Where are our kids getting this deadly information?
It's available to anybody who wants it.
A new Dateline Sunday.
Just ahead on the scene.